The next topic for ecology, evolution, and classification is the evolution part. So this would be a very short snippet of what is going to be discussed in the option D, evolution. So this is just basically a foundation of what evolution is. So evolution, this is actually the process of cumulative change in heritable characteristics of a population. So basically it shows us what are the commonly occurring characteristics that are present today and how they are related to the characteristics that are present in primitive organisms. So the reason why we have eukaryotic cells, because eukaryotic cells have evolved from prokaryotic cells. So there are actually evidences that are showing that evolution is occurring because these are actually groups of organisms that has shown favorable characteristics that are able to survive and withstand conditions that has been present in for a very, very long time. So the first thing that we need to discuss, of course, is the definition. Okay, so just like what I have said a while ago, it is a process of cumulative change. So it needs time. So we have to indicate it to our students that evolution needs or requires time for that. Okay, for us to be able to see that there are changes that are occurring in a specific group of organisms. Okay, so once we have defined the definition, okay, we have to discuss the evidences for evolution. Okay, so of course the evidences of evolution, since this has occurred for a very, very long time, we have to show evidences, or we have to show proof that evolution is actually occurring. So the only proof that we can show are only physical proofs, such as fossils. Okay, so fossils. Of course, fossils, there are actually imprints of organisms that has been trapped yeah, in in stone or in different type of material, and then since they were trapped in this condition, they haven't undergone decay. That's why the structure of their bodies has remained intact. Okay, so we have to indicate we have to include selective breeding as well. So in the case of selective breeding, um, this is when people are actually choosing certain traits that can be passed on to the offspring. So we can actually show diagrams for selective breeding. So for example, selective breeding or the domestication of dogs. The reason why we have dogs is because before they came from, it is possible that they came from wolves. It's because wolves and dogs they are actually they're very similar to each other, but since there are domestication and there are certain steps that are being done by people for them to be able to select certain characteristics that can be passed on to the next offspring, then that's the time that they will be able to, when they're selecting these traits or these genes, they are able to benefit because they see that this trait is benefiting for the group of organisms. For example, we have the capability of wolves to contract smells for long for, for long distance. So since it's a good trait for dogs to have, then therefore they are able to breed organisms of wolves that can be that has these traits, and therefore um, when they have taken this trait to another offspring, then it's actually heightened. That trait or that gene is heightened for this group of organisms. So another evidence for evolution is homologous structures. So in the case of homologous structures, these are structures present in organisms, specifically vertebrates, that whenever they share the same structure. For example, having the pentadactyl limb, the arrangement of the pentadactyl limb shows that in mammals, specifically in mammals, the limb of a primate is actually the same as the limb of another mammal, such as like horses, so a group of horses. So it's just that even if they are being used in a different function, their structure is still the same. So we have the homologous structure. So the next area that we need to discuss under evolution is about carrying capacity. So the carrying capacity is basically a total or a maximum number of individuals that the environment can sustain. So it says here more offsprings are being produced more than the environment can support. So naturally, more and more offsprings are being produced by organisms that cannot be really supported by the environment or by the ecosystem. So this phenomenon or this event is actually resulting to competition. So if there are more and more organisms being produced and resources, the resources are decreasing, then therefore these organisms will end up competition. So more or less, if there is competition, this would actually level off the population. So the next area that we need to discuss is the consequence of overpopulation. Okay, actually, the consequence of overpopulation is also related to the previous topic that we have. That I have mentioned a while ago about carrying capacity, wherein if more and more organisms are being produced, more than the environment can sustain, then it can lead to competition. We just need to look for the correlation for this one. Okay, so the next area that we need to discuss is about variation. So since that the students have a background about genetics already, then we can say that variation can lead to evolution as well. So in the case of variation, when more and more genes that are being passed on to several generations, it actually gives us more variety in the types of genes or in the types of in the types of characteristics that is supposed to be passed on to the next generation. So we have to include the specific processes in meiosis that will promote variation. So, of course, evolution, okay, will not be evolution if we are not able to discuss about natural selection. Okay, so this area, this is a topic or a concept that we need to discuss about to our students, because in the case of natural selection, we can always revert to the survival, to the adage, survival of the fittest. Okay, of course, if the organism has a more favorable characteristics that would enable this organism to withstand or to survive in a certain condition, then this characteristic or this trait would be considered as a desirable trait, and it is possible that this trait will be transferred or that will be inherited by the offsprings. Okay, so of course, the weaker the characteristics are, then they're most likely going to be selected, or they're going to be, sorry, not really selected, but they're going to face death in that sense. So okay, we have to give examples as well, so that students would be able to like see the essence of natural selection. So lastly, now we need to discuss under evolution is the antibiotic resistance of bacteria. Okay, so we just need to discuss the significance of the antibiotic resistant gene that is being produced by a bacterium, which enables the bacterium to resist any enzyme that actually kills it. Okay, so whenever a specific group of bacterium has this gene, then this antibiotic resistant gene will be passed on to the next generation. Okay, so it is actually an example of, or an evidence for evolution. So that will be all for evolution.